Welcome to Tom and Jack Having the Craic, a irreverent look at the week's goings-on, news and politics.
Very good. Very, very good.
Should we
I love that, Tom. That was lovely. That was fucking lovely. You're like you're on the BBC or something there. Fucking focused in on the camera.
Yeah.
Getting it in.
That's like
Smashed it.
Yeah, that's a couple of summer camps of drama school. That's what that'll do for you.
Where did you go to the summer camp?
I did a National Youth Theatre for a couple of years.
Really?
Yeah. It was great because I'd always wanted to be around people who are less masculine than me. That was a big part of it.
Oh, what? This was when you were a teenager?
Yeah, I got in at like 18. So I grew up playing rugby, never done any like drama or anything like that.
None of that girly stuff.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing. This is like a big part of, I think, my draw towards stuff like that was I always wanted to do things. I always wanted to do drama. I always wanted to do poetry and things. But I grew up in the north of England in the 90s and 2000s and it just gets,
I kind of similar because I grew up in Ireland. I loved movies and I liked plays, but I liked really serious stuff. Like I'd love to play a gangster in a movie. I'd love to play like a killer in Godfather. Yeah. But like if you want to do any kind of acting where I was from, it was musicals. It was singing.
Yeah.
I don't want to sing and dance. I
see. I wanted to sing and I wanted to dance.
I want to frighten people. You know what I mean? Oh, you wanted to sing and to dance?
100%.
And can you sing?
I can sing a wee bit. And I can dance a wee bit, but...
You're just like Billy Elliot, are you?
100%. 100%. Just with less coal and my shoes are less sparkly. But yeah, that was all I wanted to do. It's like I had an English teacher. We were doing some readings in class, some Shakespeare readings. I think it was Othello. I was playing Iago or something. And he was coming to me afterwards like, you should audition for the National Youth Theatre. Which I thought was like, a predator. I was wondering like, is he going to try and take me off to the broom closet or something? But he was like, you should audition for the National Youth Theatre. And I did. And then that was it. Because it was away from school and my friends didn't really know what I was doing.
Right.
I got away with it.
But you were 18 though.
Oh yeah. So
It's quite old.
It is, because all these other kids started at like 12, 13. And I remember I was my first year of university. So I remember going for the audition. And there was this, I was hungover to shit. It's your first week of uni. I was, just out on the smash. And I was laid down on the floor in this audition hall just thinking, I'm never going to get in. This doesn't matter. I'm just here for the, banter. And this kid, 14 maybe, and I'm 18 at the time, comes over and goes, "Hey, big guy, how you doing? I get a bit nervous before auditions too. I just like to center myself. I like to think about the butterflies in my stomach."
Yeah.
I was like, "Mate, the only thing that's in my stomach is like cheap vodka.
Cheap
vodka." And then we did the audition, and you had to like conjure up an emotion. And you had to use 3 words to describe an emotion. And I said like a happy, silly thing. And this kid would just went like, "Pain inside. No one knows how it feels." And I was like, I don't want to be part of this.
Yeah.
But
you did do it though.
Yeah.
So what? You go somewhere. How many weeks is it?
So you go for like 6 weeks.
6 weeks.
Yes, and it's amazing.
And where is it? Like in a boarding school that's not a boarding school because it's summertime?
Yeah. So it's the office used to be on Holloway Road.
Okay.
And you stay at some uni accommodation in Archway, which when you're from other parts of England, like
that's
coming
quite
down
exciting.
coming down to London for like 6 weeks, and you're all like young people together, just like it's basically like getting a bit of a pre-uni experience for a lot of people before you go off and do that sort of thing.
How many kids will be on this course?
They let in about 500 a year, I want to say, something like that. But like tens of thousands of kids audition.
Apply. And what, you're singing and dancing every day?
Singing and dancing every day, so I was made up.
Jesus.
Didn't have to look at any rugby balls or any.
I'd find that'd be my idea. Hell, like I did an acting course, like just a small one, like, and you had to do the music. The musical theatre bit was the bit I really found it hard. Like,
really?
Yeah. I can't sing and like the dancing was okay, but they were right. Like they said, look, just commit to it because you're learning how to psychologically commit to something, and that's a big part of it. Like, but I felt very uncomfortable.
But that's why I think it's good for look at my younger cousins and stuff now, and they don't have any of these hang-ups
that we have.
Like the hang-ups about guys aren't supposed to do this, or this isn't about this doesn't fit in my friendship group, or
okay, yeah.
Like,
so what are their hang-ups then? Like what?
I think their hang-ups are about being accepted online. It seems to be anyway. For my younger cousins, it's just like if I can't post about it, I don't really want to do it. Or if our group on Instagram won't accept it.
So they've gone from no longer worrying about their small friend group to worrying about what the whole world thinks about them. And that's better. I no longer care what my 10 friends think of me. I care what millions and millions of people who don't know me think about me. Oh my God.
Exactly. So you can, it's understandable why depression's going through the roof.
Oh yeah, well, it's you know that thing where they say like we just don't have the emotional capacity because everyone compares themselves to people, and certainly teenagers. You grow out. I find you grow out of it as you get older. You definitely grow up, but when you're younger, you're very much in that competitive mindset, that primal hierarchical kind of thing. And when the pool that you're competing with just gets so big. Yeah, just no one can win then, can they?
You can't win. You can't win. And you wonder, like, what's their life going to be like in 10 years when they're, like, just focusing on these one or two individuals who've, like, skyrocketed or done something amazing. And you'll never really get the sense of reality, which is like most people live, you know, just
we're in so much trouble. Our generation are in so much trouble. We're going to have to pay for all this because what's going to happen is we're going to have to work forever because these guys are all going to be burnt out 10, 20 years. They're not going to be able for real work and they're just going to be burnt out and then we'll have to keep working to fund.
So I experienced this a little bit when I was last full-time job I had at the ad agency. We had this whole influx of college students and there was something happening where they would leave after like 6 months. And so we sat down as like a sort of management team, like senior-ish group of people and been like, what the fuck is happening here? And we chatted to a couple of these younger kids and they were like, yeah, it's just too stressful trying to manage this job and my online life. And they were giving as much credence to the online life as like work. And then we started trying to figure out ways of trying to make them happy in the office. And it was just impossible.
Yeah.
They were just like, what do you want?
Well, I always say, and even I find this a little bit like the social media thing, it makes everybody look like a winner, which then makes everybody feel like a loser. Yeah. It's so pervasive. But the other thing, it's I suppose they're just growing up in a world that's unimaginable now. One thing I always think about when I think about technology now that's really funny is I remember when I was a teenager and Sky Television came out.
Yeah.
Right. And this was big, like, and not many people could afford Sky Television, but anyone who could. But there was a feeling that Sky Television was a little bit more immoral.
Right.
Than everything else that was going on because they would show stuff that normal television wouldn't. Like, you know, your BBC and your RTE in Ireland had a sense of collective responsibility, but Sky was just commercial.
Yeah.
Sky would, you know, WWE, like they'll show you any kind of rubbish that'll sell. They don't care what harm it is. And obviously they had all the porn channels, the adult channel and everything like that. And I remember like the first time I had friends as teenagers who would get the porn channel. Yeah. They'd have sleepovers. So we could all go and watch the like 1-2 minute
teaser
preview teaser. And I remember I had a friend and he admitted to me that there was sometimes during the week, he said, when he knew his parents were in bed, he would sneak out of bed and go in and watch the little teaser. He's like 15 or 16. And I remember thinking, that'll fuck him up. You know what I mean? But like, comparing that now to what teenagers can watch now,
Unreal.
You know. So...
Because I was same, but I would do... I would take it one step. Because I grew up with... it was me, 2 brothers, and my little sister.
Okay.
So we had like 3 boys going through puberty all around the same time. Because there's only 3 years between me and my youngest brother. Very Catholic.
Okay.
And so like... we all had unspoken agreement that we would all contribute to the porn stash.
Unspoken.
To this day, we've never talked about it. But we would, those little teaser trailers, we had a VHS cassette that I'd labelled Leeds Rhinos versus St Helens 97.
Yeah.
Labelled it. And I kept it right at the back of the cabinet. And everyone must have gone in and watched it at some point. Not talked about it. And we all just added 5 minutes at a time to this VHS cassette. And then we had in the bathroom, there was a drawer that was
you've got like an hour of 5-minute previews for the adult channel.
Yeah, that's it. 100%. And then at some point, someone had a great idea, which is like, there was an adult channel, TVX, and something else.
A few different ones. Yeah, so some would be on the hour, some would be 10-minute, quarter past. Yeah, they did it well, yeah.
You know, so someone at one point, I don't know which brother it was, but one of them had the idea to like start videotaping different channels. So we got a bit of variety.
Oh yeah, that's nice.
In the tape, yeah, so you wouldn't get too bored. And then the other thing we did was in the bathroom. My mum's gonna hate this. In the bathroom, there was a cupboard that we all just, I don't know how we all found out about it, but you removed one of the cupboards and we just started stashing, not quite porn, but like the Sunday Times would have a supplement on like the Spice Girls. And that would go in there. Or like a particular page of like Glamour magazine or the Freeman's Catalogue bra section that would just go in there.
The videos were risky though. The videos were risky because like you know, your sitting rooms don't normally have locks on them.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
I was all like it was like that carrot that was just, ooh, that carrot's dangerous. Do you know what I mean? Like the magazines were just safer because you go to the bathroom or whatever, but like,
yeah, the no lock and the listening on the stairs, like for like any creaks. I grew up in a big farmhouse.
so
Like,
you know all the creaks now.
it was like windy and creaky at the best of times. So you'd be like, you know, down there doing your 5 minutes of glory or whatever it is. And then you'd be like,
Another thing too is I was actually a teenager when like Ireland was such a Catholic country that I think it's in the 1990s when I was a teenager that the law changed so you were allowed to sell Playboy. And so the porn magazines came when I was a teenager. And it became a big thing in my school for people to rob them and sell them.
yes.
And loads of people got caught for it. But the weirdest one I remember when the internet first came out. And you know, you had the porn sites where it was just pictures of women. But I remember people used to print them.
Yes. Yes. 100%. And if a lad had a printer in his house, he was like God for the week.
Yeah. And like, that's pretty grainy kind of stuff, like, but very exciting at the time. But like, there you go. Like, that's the difference now is just they're growing up in a completely different world.
So what you're saying is they're work shy. We had to really try for our porn.
yeah. What? Like, where's the motivation?
These younger kids, no work ethic.
No, I don't think it's that's what'll affect the work ethic. I think that the psychological difficulties with competing with everybody, because you know there's a whole thing in sports psychology that like the team that believes they're going to win.
Yeah.
Works the hardest and trains the hardest. And I think one of the difficulties you have, like a lot of my generation like worked hard because they believed they were going to win. Now a lot of them were deluded, but you know it's harder to have that delusion if you're competing with everybody. Do you know what I mean? It's harder to maintain that delusion.
Like I might as well just not try.
Yeah, why should I bother? Like, and you see that thing now. I've been reading about this, the Great Resignation.
Yes,
So it is kind of happening. There is there's lots of people who are like, why bother?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? They're like Woody Allen. Did you ever see that movie Annie Hall?
Yeah.
Woody Allen, he's like 10.
Yeah.
And his parents brought in a teacher and he says, what's the point? Yeah. What's the point? The universe is massive. And do you know what? And then obviously like housing being so much more on a foot. Like you're not going to get a house.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like if they keep going up the way they're going up, it doesn't matter how hard, you're not going to. So like, why bother?
Yeah. And I think when we were like, getting back to this like employment thing, you felt that really viscerally when you're dealing with kids that age.
Yeah.
They're like, I either need to be a YouTuber influencer who is very successful, or who gives a fuck, or like it doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter.
It's all or nothing. Yeah.
It's all or nothing.
It's become all or nothing.
Yeah. Whereas we were sort of, I think maybe, I mean, it might come back, but you know, obviously our parents were raised with like, you just get a job, work hard, progressively, and life seems, since World War II, life's got better, so it'll just keep getting better incrementally.
Incrementally, yeah.
Whereas, and we sort of got that growing up, and we're like, that's what you need to do. And we've all had to figure out a wee bit of like, maybe I'm not going to have the same cozy progression my grandparents and my parents had. But for people younger than us, they're looking up like, that is never, ever going to happen.
So do you think, like, you know, right, at a primal level, everyone believes in hierarchy. Everyone wants to win. There's a thing in humans that they want to win.
Yeah.
So you have to, and a lot of time you create a thing that you're going to win from. So like you got my grandparents' generation, say their win was no war, right?
Yeah. Low bar. Yeah, low bar.
Low bar.
Yeah.
And we get ice cream. Do you know what I mean? Like, we're winning. We've beaten our parents, right? Then my parents' generation are like, we're a lot richer. Mm-hmm. Like we've got way more stuff. We got bigger houses. We got cars. We are way more richer, right?
Yeah.
And now it's kind of like, ooh, how do you win against? How does the newest generation win against? So I think there's an element now. Maybe I'm being a bit cruel here. I think there's an element of well, we're going to be the nicest people.
That's it. I think there is.
You know what I mean?
I was going to say, I think you're being, I think, yeah, the one way of looking at it is we're going to be the nicest people. The other way of looking at it is we're going to be the most morally pure.
Pure, yeah. There's like a moral purity. Obviously, this has happened before in other countries and happens in different places. Like, the Middle East has become a very morally pure place, which it wasn't always. But that's kind of there. So we need to find something for them to win. Because moral purity is...
Yeah, because that's not going to help anybody, is it?
It'll be horrific. It'd be horrific, don't it?
It is, because humans aren't moral. Like, if you can censor speech, or you can ask for people to behave certain ways, and some of it's good, some of it's whatever, but you can't police what's in here. Like, we all have those thoughts. Like, we all have those. Like,
but I always think, look, you don't want to be oppressed, right? So I think if you look at countries around the world, you got the religious moral countries, and they oppress people by everyone then becomes afraid to do anything because they don't want to do anything wrong. And then the other side of it too is if you've too much capitalism that is out of control, where you're too immoral, like greed is good, destroy everybody. If you're strong enough to defeat someone, defeat them. Yep. And then that becomes oppressive the other way. What you really want is somewhere in the middle. You know what I mean? Let's be moral, but not too moral. Let's be greedy, but not too, you just kind of, like, if I was a politician, but you never win as a politician if you're the person who, listen, I'm going to try and please everybody. Yeah. I'll make none of you happy, but no one will be oppressed. Vote for me.
I think that's the real issue with democracy, because, like, you've got, I think you're right, that level of, what do you call it? Moderation. Like, that goes back to, like, Aristotle. That was, like, his philosophy of, like, don't be an extreme on either end.
Yeah, you want to get in the middle.
Yeah, which is probably a good way to live your life morally, but it's super unsexy as a reason to...
It's hard to sell. Yeah, it's hard to sell, yeah.
It's very nuanced and intellectual.
But you probably have a better chance of it with democracy than without democracy.
Well, I think it's interesting.
Do you not think?
Well, I think it's... I didn't really realise until, like, I don't know, middle of the 1700s, late 1700s, that democracy was a bad word.
Right.
That was a substitute for mob rule. That was what when people were interrogating political ideas, they were like, oh, democracy is when the mob has control.
Right.
It's not about the franchise, having a franchise.
It's considered about, so a benevolent monarchy is...
So that was one way of looking at it. One way of looking at it was, if you've got somebody in charge who has the right idea of moderation, and then they disseminate that, and I'm here today to stand for...
I was such a believer in democracy, right? I used to say to people, when phone banking first came out, right? And I was like, look, if we've got the technology that it's safe enough to do phone banking, I think we should have a thing where everybody gets to vote on everything in Parliament.
Yeah.
So every bill that goes through Parliament, you get to vote. Boom, boom, boom. Like, that is total democracy.
Yeah.
And I used to bore people to death in pubs talking about this for ages, and then Brexit happened. I was like, I don't know. Maybe I got that one wrong. Maybe we shouldn't be getting involved in everything. Do you know what I mean?
Because the counter argument is like, who wants to be a millionaire? Because on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, they ask the audience, 70% is right. Almost every time.
Yeah, but that's why I thought of the idea. That was my kind of defense for the idea that the power of the group does tend to do better, and but I suppose, and then the thing about it is, it would nullify. This is the main reason I was thinking about it, was it would nullify the media. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Because it would just be hard. Like, if you're... Look, if you have an oil company and you don't want any green policies, if there's only 666 people voting on that,
to convince,
it's easier to kind of corrupt them than 30, 60 million people. Like,
I think the getting the scale to a point where it can influence a decision in the right way is the trick of that's the trick of democracy.
They'd still try.
Well, when you've got $912 billion to spend, that's peanuts. But we can do a couple per million. It's fine, easy.
But you don't have to vote on everything. You only kind of vote on things that are of interest to you. Like, so, like, school policy. Like, I probably wouldn't vote on school policy. But, like, if I had kids, I'd vote on school policy.
Yeah.
Health policy. I work in health, so I'd vote on health policy.
Make restraining orders.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I think it'd be kind of exciting.
Yeah. I think so. I think there is an argument that would bring people more into the process, and they would feel more, have more agency over, like, some of the things.
Yeah, they'd feel more involved, feel more franchised. But
On the flip side,
it could go horribly wrong.
Yeah, because then I think what's been interesting about the last 2 years, I think, is this unique situation where it felt like anyway, we had as much information as the governments. So I think when you think about things like the Iraq War or any sort of global conflict that's happened in our lifetime, we might have been against certain things, the government did, but it didn't feel like we had all the info.
Yeah.
Like you believed there was like some dossiers, you believed there was some briefing rooms, you believed there was like people behind the scenes with more knowledge than us. And on this one, it felt like we had as much knowledge as them. And it made me wonder about people's ability to understand democracy in that sense. Like, can I just vote on a thing without knowing the ramifications of my actions?
Yeah, there's this thing, I've read this thing about psychology that you, if you're asked a difficult question, you substitute it in your mind for an easier question.
Yeah.
So a lot of it just comes down to who do I like?
Yeah.
Isn't it? At the end, like from a personality, like of the people saying this and the people saying that, which people do I?
So, but it's like if you had your little BB boopy machine and it was like, do you want to vote for kids to get free school meals?
See, yeah, that would have been overwhelming. Yeah.
And you'd be like, yes, 100%. Yeah. Now, on my little boopy app, does it also tell me that means your taxes will go up by?
Okay, yeah, so it gives you the information, yeah.
At the same time, or is that like do I have to find out about that later after I?
This is an incredible society we're creating here. But it just shows you how disingenuous a lot of the democracy talk is.
Yeah.
That nobody is talking about that. Like, if America was as pro-democracy as it pretends to be,
yeah,
they'd be all over this.
Yeah.
Like, but it just shows you that everything's just power, isn't it? Really, at the end, like it's not.
Oh, 100%. Like once they pass the citizens versus thing, where corporations are classed as citizens.
Oh yeah, ridiculous.
That is over at that point because there's no way anybody can run for any level of office, whether it's local or the president, without getting business to support them.
Oh, it's impossible now. Yeah, you need the money, and then the idea that they can't, the company is treated as a human being, but you can't put a company in jail. So basically, they just have carte blanche to do whatever they want now. Like they are untouchable.
Yeah,
they have become untouchable.
Yeah, what I find really interesting is when the narrative is when it suits people to spin a narrative a certain way. So like Hillary Clinton, for example, always super Wall Streety, always super money focused. But when she was running, she was deified as this, she's going to be amazing. Like I went to some fundraising events for her.
Really?
And my agency helped raise some money for her. And I remember having a chat with one of her strategists, and I said, like, you guys haven't got a line. Like you haven't got, like, he's got Make America Great Again, which whether you like it or not is a brilliant
It's a line, yeah.
Line. Work for Reagan, work for him. And I was like, you guys haven't got a thing for people to coalesce around? And he was just like texting, wouldn't really look. And he was like, yeah, like we got a good ground game. We've got like good investment. Like we're going to trump him like 3-1 in terms of like Wall Street donors. We're going to be fine. And at that moment, I was like, oh, I think they're in real trouble. Because they were basically banking on the whole of the Wall Street infrastructure to back her and not him.
Yeah.
And then in the end, they ended up splitting their vote. And that was enough. That was enough to like...
But he had good financial backing too. Trump.
I mean, he had his own money, obviously, and then in the end,
he had Peter Thiel. Did Peter Thiel?
Was it Peter Thiel? He ended up with enough big names backing him, where she didn't have an insurmountable amount of money compared to him.
Did she spend more money than him?
Yeah.
Did she?
Yeah.
But normally, I thought there was a thing once that whoever spends the most money always wins. So that's over now.
Well, this is the thing: is he got more airtime. So working in advertising at the time in America was pretty interesting because we'd get all the data on like.
So he was getting free air.
Free airtime.
He was, yeah. So that's in a donation then.
Yeah.
You could say that's like a donation.
Well, this is the thing. There's an argument to be made that CNN made the biggest donation to his campaign.
Yeah,
because
they just became obsessed.
Became obsessed with him in the way they're obsessed with Joe Rogan now. It's like that is the thing that's going to get us clicks and views, and the amount of they actually gave him more airtime than Fox gave him, because for a long time Fox were like, he's not a Republican.
Yeah.
Now we want Jeb Bush, we want Marco Rubio, like they're our guys. And if you go back to like early 2015, Fox does a lot of work to discredit Trump because they think that they need the Republican establishment to keep, funneling money into Fox. And it's only like really towards the end where they start backing him. But CNN covered him so much in the run up to everything.
Do you think he'd get back in?
I think he could give it a go. You know, he's just set up his own social media platform.
Yeah, how's it doing? It's doing
tremendously well. All these people, they tell me how many people are on there. He says it's doing great, and his kids say it's doing great.
Oh God! Did you ever meet him when you were in? No,
but one of my brother's friends did some property deals with him.
Right.
Yeah, and he said that there's two Trumps. There's the Trump while the deal's being done, who's like, you're a sweetheart, just like a nice guy, and is like, your golf game's fantastic. And then there's the guy you meet once the deal's been closed, or like about to be closed, and then he's just a cunt.
I saw him once at the tennis
Right.
in the US. It was well before he was president. It was, but it was when The Apprentice was big, and he was with Kim Kardashian, and they were sitting in the front row, and the cameras went down, and said, "Look who's here," and everyone started clapping and cheering. And but he like there was an aura there, like it was weird, like.
Yeah. He's got that magnetism.
He's got the magnetism, yeah.
For sure.
That was there.
Have you seen the Shane Gillis joke about Trump?
No.
Oh, it's great. Shane Gillis' last special.
I've watched the special, so maybe I have seen it.
I think it's called In Austin or something. Anyway, the basic gist of it is like all these people are doing presidential debates the way you're supposed to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
going to talk about healthcare. Well, I'm going to talk about education. He's just like, Ted's wife's a fat pig. And you can see all the other politicians look at him like, are we allowed to do that? Because I would have done that. I also think she's fat. I would have. I've been saying that for years.
And I think he says it on that. Like, he is funny. Like, he's just so dangerous.
Yeah, and he has eroded,
standards
and
completely.
trust in institutions.
And
done horrific things that might, America might never recover from, or it might take a generation to recover from. 100%. But I think when you had the other thing as well was interesting about America at that time. Obviously, they're coming off the Barack Obama years, so the country was doing good. Like they'd recovered from 2008. They just passed the gay marriage law had passed. The economy was doing well. From living there, there was a general sense of optimism.
Right.
It didn't feel like the country could be fucked up too much. And I think the biggest thing that was starting to happen was people in the middle of the country being told they were bad people a lot, all the time.
Yeah, that happens here to a lesser extent, but there's nothing to be gained by telling people they're like, by patronising people like that.
No, especially when it's very real. Like, there's an economist, I'm going to forget his name, but he's got his theory called the donut-shaped economy.
Oh, yeah, but it's a woman.
Is it? Right,
donut economics.
Yeah, they can do economics too.
I when I was on radio before, I messaged her to interview her.
Oh, right.
And she couldn't show up for the interview, so she sent me a free copy of the book. And it's genius. It's the donut that basically the first line is what everybody needs to live a dignified life.
Yeah.
And then the second line is the realms we need to stay within, not to destroy the planet.
Yeah.
And I read, actually, it was really interesting, after the pandemic, when the pandemic started, a lot of people realised they were going to have to redesign. It would be a good opportunity to redesign your economy because you're going to have to shut your economy. And I heard that the city of Amsterdam hired her as a consultant.
Really?
And that they are going to try and incorporate donut economics into the running of their city.
Yeah, right.
Which is quite exciting.
Yeah, I think we've got to look at different models like that because I think the interesting thing about that model was it serves as a good metaphor for what's actually happened to America's economy as well. Where if you think about the coasts of America, like there's so much affluence on the west and east coast, and in the middle of the country is just like nothing.
Yeah, so they've broken both lines.
Yeah.
They're completely polluting everything, and they've left loads of people without dignity.
I mean, I went and did focus groups for a campaign. I went and did a focus group in Cleveland. It was like something out of a horror film.
Yeah. And
like it's nothing. It's obviously nothing to do with the people of Cleveland or anything like that. But like half the streets just shut, just like derelict everything, and these people in these focus groups were so unhappy.
I have a friend who's a journalist who went and he covered one of the elections in America, and he drove around and he said the small towns in America are like apocalyptic.
It's bleak.
Like he said, the opium and the heroin addiction was unbelievable.
Yeah.
And he said, like, these should be nice places to live and would have been nice places to live. And they're just like,
yeah,
you know.
Like going to an out of town, one of my clients was in South Carolina and going to like an out of town shopping mall and just seeing people basically just pretty openly scoring heroin and fentanyl in parking lots.
Yeah.
And stuff because they'd been on opioids, been prescribed opioids. Have you ever seen any of these clinics that were just set up just as...
Yeah, I watched some of the documentaries like this. They open at night time.
Yeah.
Doctor.
Like a fucking club.
You queue up for the doctor at night time. But the other thing about it too is they're depressing drugs. Like, it's not like... Do you know what I mean? It's not like... It's not like
Coke.
No, but it's not like. Do you know what I mean? It's not like everybody's going rave in like the early 90s, or do you know what I mean? Like, there's nothing joyful about this.
Nah.
Like, this is miserable drug taking.
It's
like,
drugs of escape. Yeah.
This is it's just, there's no hedonism here. This is just misery. Like, it's absolute misery. Like.
It's really interesting because if you think about the states where it's all like heroin and opioids, then you've got other states where it's weed.
Yeah.
And like weed is a drug of like it's like happy and inclusive and social.
Yeah,
and it's a good barometer, I think, for how states are doing.
Is this a weed or an opioid state? It's no longer red and blue states. It's not.
It's weed. It's weed or heroin.
Weed or heroin. Oh, you live in a heroin state.
Yeah. Like, you no longer fly over. You're just like, are you a syringe-based economy or are you more of a...
I'll tell you what is quite funny. My girlfriend Erica is in Mexico at the minute, from Mexico, and she was saying she's from Tijuana, very near California. She hadn't been back for a few years.
Yeah.
And she said, like, she's gone back this time, and she said there's loads of Americans now living in Mexico to retire or to commute into California because the housing prices in California are so
crazy.
So expensive. And she said there's a part of the city where she went the other day, it was all American flags, Starbucks, and no one spoke Spanish. I was like, I don't think you're allowed to complain about that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, when you coming back, sweetheart? Nice to see you again.
But you know what? But I think it's always been a thing. Like, America's been around for 200 years. I think the whole rest of the world is always looking at America in a fearful way, and it's sort of always just sorts itself out, does it? Or?
Yeah, well, I think it's going to be interesting for them in the next couple of years because there's a big news story over there about that young lady. I'm going to forget her first name. Thingy Goo, who chose to race for China, downhill skier.
She chose to race for China. Okay, go on. I don't know this story.
In the winter, she was born in America, raised in America, of Chinese descent. Chose to race for
China.
Originally said the reason I'm doing this is because it embraces my heritage. It subsequently comes to light that she's been given a $40 million endorsement deal.
With China?
Yeah, to work for like brands in China and be the face of certain products, and they've sort of guaranteed her that kind of money. And I think that has rubbed or given Americans something for cause for pause, I think, because
they're no longer number one.
Yeah.
It's no longer, So now if someone has the option between China and America, they might choose China.
Yeah.
But I recently watched the thing about China and about how the Communist Party believed that if you are of Chinese heritage and you live anywhere in the world, they can tap you up to help them, and they expect you to help them.
Yeah.
So you think? I suppose China's been getting there for a long time, but do you think they're getting?
Well, I think they're. It's going to be interesting because what they haven't got yet is a product that they can export to the rest of the world. Like freedom's a very good export product, and like the attractiveness of freedom in places where they didn't have it was a very useful product.
So what are they gonna sell us? Like, what are they gonna sell us?
Yeah, exactly.
I was thinking of this bit the other day. I haven't tried it yet, so I don't know if it will work on stage. But I was thinking, like everyone goes on about the British Museum and like in France and Germany and all the stuff they robbed from Africa, like the artifacts and the artworks and everything. And the idea for the bit was that I think they should give it back. Mm-hmm. To give the Chinese a chance to take it. Yeah. Because what they're doing is they're basically going to these countries and building stuff for them, lending them money so they can build the stuff for them.
Yeah.
And then they're getting them in debt, really.
Yeah.
And then, if you owe someone a lot of money, then you're kind on their side.
Yeah, it's like a mafia trick.
It's my mafia trick. But did you see, like, they're doing it big time in Australia?
Really?
The Chinese, yeah. They're infiltrating universities. Like, they're really, like, they're trying to sabotage us all.
This is now a conspiracy podcast. We're now just fully down the rabbit hole.
They're not even secret about it. Did you read Obama's book, like, about where he said he went over to China and he has his delegation or whatever, and two guys forgot something in their hotel room.
Right.
So they went back up, and when they went into the room, there was two Chinese guys in the room just rooting through everything in the room. And they just didn't make eye contact with them and walked her out. So, like, they're not really pretending. Like, if you met the Chinese president and said, "Listen, are you trying to bring down every other powerful country?" So he'd be like, "Yeah,
yeah."
You know what I mean? Yeah, that's exactly what we're doing. You know what I mean?
Well, that's why the Ukraine thing's interesting at the minute, because you wonder if Russia and China
how much are in? Yeah. It's very interesting because there's a party that kind of thinks maybe they're not.
Yeah.
And that Putin sort of pretends because it's how much benefit is Russia to China. That's what I always kind of think.
Oh, they'd be the little brother of that relationship.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. And I don't think Russia would like to be anyone's little brother.
No.
Like, I think it would be you just kind of think the Chinese would sort of, if I'm president of China and I'm trying to take over the world, like, I'd want my junior partners to be obedient, disciplined. And you just think, these Russian guys, like, they're not going to be...
No.
You couldn't trust them, could you?
Especially not him.
No, especially not him. He's not going to do what you tell him to do.
I mean...
He's like he'd be a complete liability to you.
Yeah, he's not your younger brother. He's like your drunk uncle at the
Yeah. He'd be walking around thinking he's bigger than you. And you'd be like, dude.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, you're 5'6", Uncle Derek.
Yeah.
Sit down.
So, yeah, it's very interesting to know. But from media and propaganda, like, they're everywhere now.
Yeah.
But I'd imagine some countries are going to fall under their spell, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, like you mentioned, the Belt and Road thing in Africa, that's been a huge part of it. I think the American universities are going to be an interesting thing to watch with that.
Because they've said that too. They're in all the universities. Have you seen that thing recently now where Britain is now going to be a little bit more stringent on who they let into university?
Really?
Yeah. Who's the guy who said he was going to run to replace Boris? He put his name straight in the hat. He's ex-military. Can't think of his name.
Yeah, go on. Doesn't matter.
But he saw him in a documentary, and he's saying that, like, basically there's guys from China. They've got a massive military university in China, and there's guys from China who've gone to this university.
Yeah.
And then they've gone and done a PhD in Oxford.
Yeah.
And they're basically over to try and steal information and research, and then they go back to work in the military university of China. And again, they haven't been doing this in a hidden way either. And suddenly everyone's like, well, maybe we can't have the... And the other thing too, the quantum, it's quantum... Physics, yeah, there's quantum computing. Is that it? the faster quantum computing, I think it is. That like we're on the verge of these computers that are just so much, can process information so much quicker. And the China is really pushing to get this because they believe if they get there first, that will give them the upper hand militarily. Yeah,
which is like I say, it's not hidden; it's out in the open.
It's out in the open, yeah.
And it's like, and arguably they're saying, well, we're playing by your rules. We're competing.
Yeah,
you know, you charge students a certain price to be at this university. We're paying it. So I think that's what's really interesting about them is they've found. It's almost like have you ever read The Art of War?
Yeah, I've read it. Yeah.
So, like, you know, the thing about using your enemy's greatest strengths as a weakness.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what they're doing.
And capitalism's fatal flaw
is its openness,
and its greed,
inability to say no to money.
Yeah. So which is what happens. I think if you think about you're a university bursar, right? You're like, well, I'm not causing a strategic gap in Western, whatever security by allowing this person to do this. I'm just accepting a load of money from a student who wants to study.
And at the same time, you've got your government saying, listen, we can't give you any more funding. If you want to be viable, you need to be viable in the market. So you need to get money from somewhere. And the only people who are coming to give you that money are the Chinese government. There was a woman recently caught in Britain who was donating money to British politicians, and she was direct. They found out she was directly linked to the Communist Party. So but it's happened a few times in Australia. I think it's been happening a lot more in Australia.
Yeah.
It's so that you think that might sort America out? An enemy. That's what America needs is a.
Yeah, I think if they had, if they had an ideological counterpart that they could, I think, go after in a more meaningful way, I think that would help their country
come together.
Yeah,
makes sense.
Because at the minute, I don't know if there was a stat pretty recently, actually. Both Republicans and Democrats think the biggest threat to America is other Americans.
Really?
And that's the first time that's ever happened since they started like 100 years of polling. And that would traditionally have been, something.
Russia or something.
Yeah, domestic terror.
A lot to be said to having an enemy to sort yourself out.
Well, that's what Reagan said. The way to get world peace would be to get an invasion from space.
From aliens.
Yeah. Which is where who's your man who wrote The Watchmen? What's his name?
Moore, is it Moore?
Yeah, Alan Moore. Yeah. That's where he got the idea from for Watchmen.
For
like that big squid that invades, and spoiler alert for anyone who hasn't read a 40-year-old comic, but yeah, so that's what that big squid invades. It's kind of like that Reagan idea of that would bring the world together.
Together, it's artificial. It would, though.
Yeah.
To be fair, it would bring everyone together.
But I've always wondered if you did get attacked from outer space, like why do we presume that they are more advanced than we are?
Well, they isn't it Hawkins said that because if they can find us, then they have to have better technology because we can't find them.
Which makes sense. But what if they're just good at travel?
Just like a one-trick pony. They just happen to be good at this one thing.
Like Enterprise Rent-A-Car doesn't have guns.
Yeah, but I think I don't know. But what do you think if we did find? Imagine if we found a planet now, a parallel planet to this planet, and we thought, and we were like, imagine we found another planet Earth, right?
Yeah.
Same resources, and there's like 100 million people on it.
Right.
Right. And they're living very differently to us. And we saw that and we realised we've got the better equipment, technology, everything. They haven't been using a lot of their resources.
Yeah. We
could wipe them out. That'd be...
Yeah, I think the British Museum's going to get a new wing built.
Like that'd be... Jesus, you'd really see what people were like then.
And then how would we tell ourselves that story?
Oh yeah, we'd have to make up some nonsense.
Yeah.
Like... But can you imagine, like everybody, even nice people would be like...
Yeah. Yeah, we'd either have to do the thing of like, oh, they're a threat.
We'd have to pretend that they were a threat.
Pretend they were a threat. Or you would have to make things so dire here that it is like an us or them.
Us or them, yeah.
Situation.
Oh, God, that'd be something else, wouldn't it?
Wouldn't it? Because like, what you've learned from human history is like, our empathy is not great beyond like your immediate family.
Yeah, and even it's not that good in the family.
I see you've met my father. Yeah, good. Yeah.
Like, how long do you think it would take us to discover that planet to decide, fuck them, let's take the resources? 2 days?
Yeah. I would say inside a week. Put it this way. Inside a week, someone's going to mention it for the first time in a room somewhere.
In a room, okay.
It's like you're in the what do they call that bunker in the White House? The Situation Room. You've been in the Situation Room a week in, and someone's like, just want to spitball something here. On this planet seems to have a lot of resources. They don't seem to be using them all. And I don't know if we wanted to walk in there and take some of it. What do you think?
Be like a race.
Yeah.
To get there. So China would go to Russia, ring them up and tell them, if you don't take it, we will. But China be already going there.
Yeah. What do you mean, mate? I'm halfway there. That's the other interesting thing is like, what if by that point, Bezos and Musk are the ones with the best space technology?
They have the rockets.
And then what do? If China says, we will come to you with, a $40 billion offer to take us there.
Okay, so you got Bezos, you got Musk. Who else is doing
Branson?
Well? He's not in the game, is he? Right, so you got Musk, you got Bezos. Who would be more likely to defect to China? Out of those two, do you think?
Well, I think because Musk,
he's more unpredictable.
But so Musk has got factories in America. He's been big on moving factories back to America.
He's a bit more loyal, is he?
But he's not actually American.
He's South African.
He's actually South African.
And he grew up in Canada, did he?
Yeah.
So he's
sort of a world citizen. He's been all over the world, and gave his daughter an interest. What's his daughter? Isn't his daughter's name just like Dots and Feathers? What's something?
Pie or something.
Pie, yeah. So like he seems like a kooky guy. He seems like he's out there a bit more. Bezos seems a bit more. He's from Seattle. He's of America. I think Musk. I think Musk would be more likely to go.
You think so?
Yeah. What do you reckon?
I don't know. I think Bezos. I don't know. I think Musk because, like, I suppose, like, has Musk really done much dealing in China? He seems a bit more Western. Like,
yeah.
You know what I mean?
They must sell a lot. But I know what you mean. Bezos is the more ruthless one.
Yeah.
So I reckon on that level, if it's just a choice of like who's got the most cash,
I think he would go. Yeah.
I mean, he's running a company where people are pissing in bags to make deliveries. He doesn't seem to have that big of a moral.
No, he has no scruples.
Nah.
Is Amazon in China? No,
it's that's Tmall.
Tmall is the equivalent of it.
Yeah, or Alibaba.
Well, the Alibaba for the thing.
Yeah. So that'd be another thing. It'd be like his way into China. He's like, this is my access.
This is his chance.
This is my access point. He's like, yeah, I will take you to space if you get rid of Jack Ma and the Alibaba system. Bring Amazon in.
I'll bring it to space.
Yeah.
What do you think of this thing that they're doing where they're trying to live longer? You aware of that?
What? You mean like rich folk?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, isn't there going to be like a huge problem with depopulation? Isn't that a big thing that's starting to be talked about? It's like as rich countries, people are having fewer and fewer kids.
Yeah.
And older people just live in
longer.
You just get depopulation, and then all of a sudden you're like, we haven't got anyone to do any work. We haven't got anyone to.
Well, they say this is China's big difficulty,
right?
Because the solution to it is you bring in foreign people, like that, and that's basically what Europe has been doing.
Yeah.
So France, Germany, Britain are very much. I think they're ahead of the curve on this. America has always been bringing in people, but China. They said it's going to happen in China where they're going to have a huge retired population.
Right.
Not enough young people working to support that population. But they don't. But bringing in young foreign people isn't really an option for China.
Right.
So they think what China's going to do is extend the retirement age.
Right.
Yeah, and that could then become. Everyone will start doing it.
Jesus.
But you do know that the retirement age now, what is it, 60? Like when it came about, most people didn't live that long.
Yeah.
So it wasn't meant to be.
It was more like if you make it to them, have some time off.
It's meant to be like it's like Squid Games. You fucking, you know what I mean? You won. Here you go. We're going to give you free money till you die. It wasn't meant for everybody. It wasn't meant for everybody.
The retirement life chose me.
Yeah. Do you know what I mean? It was like Jesus. Do you know what I mean? Like they brought it in. The first guy makes it 66 from the factory. They're shaking his hand. He meets the Queen. There you are. You have free money till you die. Brilliant stuff.
On Wednesday. See you on Wednesday.
And then another guy comes, then the next thing you're like, there's 1,000. Where the fuck? What the fuck's going on?
But you feel that because every year the announcement goes up, doesn't it?
Yeah. I deal with a lot of old people in my job. Like, oh man, some of these lives though, very immobile, not really doing anything.
Yeah.
I had a guy I was talking to one time at work, 95.
Right.
Retired when he was 60.
What?
Yeah. And he said to me, if he had known he was going to live for another 35 years, he wouldn't have retired.
Nah, it terrifies me, the idea of just having it happened to my dad, just like nothing, just doing nothing.
Yeah.
For years and years and years. And like you'd much rather think I'd like to be doing something. Like,
you need to do something.
Yeah, right up until the end. Squid Games, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I suppose it's part-time work, I think, is part-time to work the answer.
Although if these guys are living longer, are they going to be younger for longer?
Well, this is look, it depends on. I think a lot of these tech guys, they just want to live forever.
Yeah.
They when they talk about it, they say that they want to make everyone's lives better, but it's about them. It's not really about us. Like, do you know what I mean? But like Peter, I read Peter, like, was it like death and illness is just like
a disease, a treatable disease.
What it like is a fault in the system.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, it can just be fixed. It'll be very like it's one of these things. There's not many things that happen in the world that I think that could happen, but to me is just unimaginable.
Yeah.
Like, but this is like if I'll be absolutely gobsmacked if people start living to 150 in my lifetime. I'll be like, Jesus, like.
But what if it's like just 10 of them? It's like just these 10 billionaires. This is where I feel, like you ever listen to like old Alex Jones things like, it was like, the globalists, they want to live in a hive mind being, yeah. You're like, no, they do.
They do, yeah,
There's
yeah,
like
yeah.
10 of them, like 10 of them absolutely do. 100%.
And they just keep, like, they're completely protected.
Yeah.
In a bubble, like the bubble boy out of Seinfeld.
Yeah. And we're all George. Everyone's George.
And they're running the world from their bubble.
Because if you had that much money, because you're above, especially with when you have like Western style capitalism, you're above scruples because you have all the cash.
Yeah.
You can get out of any situation. You're above government.
You're above everything. You're a god, really.
Yeah.
You're a master of the universe.
Yeah, 100%. You're a master of the bit of the universe we can like interact with.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the other side of it is, I was thinking, if I had 183 billion, I'd want to live forever, wouldn't I?
Yeah, of course. To be honest, I've no money and I want to live forever. You know what I mean? Like, I would definitely... It was a weird one. I was reading about it and I started asking everyone at work, if you could live forever, would you? Everybody no, straight away.
Really?
No. Yeah, no. And then I said, what about an extra 50 to 100 years? Most of them were like, no, I couldn't believe that.
Oh, that's a great question. It's a great follow-up because I think I would rather have an extra 50 to 100 rather than living forever. Because I think living forever is as daunting mentally for me anyway as death, because you're like, it's just going to go on and on.
But you don't enjoy life.
Yeah, but I think if you live forever and you could set some parameters, so your body isn't going to denigrate.
Yeah.
You're going to be able to have a similar level of...
Well, the possibility of living forever, but I always kind of think like, if it gets bad, you know what I mean, you can still
cash your chips in.
Yeah, you got. I know. That was a Hunter S. Thompson thing, do you remember?
Go on.
He said, well, Hunter S. Thompson, he said the biggest difference between his generation and his parents' generation was because they didn't have God, that if it ever got too much, they could just kill themselves. And he did kill himself.
Yeah.
And so he said that gave great freedom. So I think you've always got the choice to
just to like cash it in. Yeah. Over and out. Yeah, it's an interesting thing because the other side of it is I wonder if you'd be as motivated to do stuff. Like if you knew you had, I'm a procrastinator at the best of times.
Oh, are you?
Yeah, so if I knew I had forever.
That might be.
Like I'll get to that later.
Yeah.
I've got another millennia to figure this out.
I don't think I'd do anything that differently now, to be honest.
Do you reckon?
No.
You just keep carrying on.
Yeah.
No, I think I would like to believe I would, but I wonder if I would waste more time.
Yeah, but it's tricky. But you need. I don't know. I never have time to because you'd still need to work to get money to do the things you want to do. Like you're not unless you're really rich.
Yeah, that's a bad combo. If you're a billionaire and lived forever, that might be a bad combo. Although I wonder how long it would take you to spend. Like you sometimes see those graphs of like
how long it would take you to spend the money. Yeah. So the money keeps making money. Your man says it. What's his name? Yuval. No, I'm probably saying it wrong. The guy who wrote *Sapiens*.
Yeah.
He talks about that it'll create a lot of tension because if we start to see the rich people living a lot longer than us, the jealousy will become overwhelming.
Yeah, well, then you're in a Brave New World.
Yeah. It'll be too much. Like, we can kind of tolerate the inequality and them having much better lives than us because death and illness sort of equalizes us a little bit.
Yeah, everyone's equal in the graveyard, sort of.
Everyone's equal in the graveyard, yeah.
Yeah.
But it'd be interesting to see the different. It would definitely change things because it's a big psychological.
Well, like you were saying right at the start, if China started doing it first before anybody else, and if you're an American billionaire, like, wouldn't you be like, I want to go there?
So, yeah.
Like they have this technology that enables.
Well, that's the quantum computing. That's how they're gonna take over the.
Imagine if you're like one bursar at Oxford who's made that decision. You're like,
oh man,
I've changed world politics
to live longer. But the other side of it too is, I think if you're just going to be watching telly, and taking fucking Tramadol, I don't want to live longer. Do you know what I mean?
At least get some good drugs in.
but that's what people are doing. But so this guy, 95, retired at 60, and he said to me he couldn't believe he lived for another 35 years. He said it was by far the worst decision he ever made.
Yeah, I can imagine. Like, because they're not the years where you're going to have, the most. That's what I think about enjoying your life now in the moment. Because this is when you got the energy.
Yeah.
This is when you can actually get out and do shit and have fun rather than just being like sat at home till all goes away. Yeah,
definitely live while you're young rather than like some people. I know some people who do this. Their whole kind of thing is they do everything quite early and they work hard and they're saving all their money to like travel.
Yeah.
Fun too, but it's not going to be the same.
No, it's not.
No,
I mean, I know how much more. Like when I was like in my 20s going traveling or whatever. I'm sure you're the same. You could subsist on a level of
cheap
that you couldn't deal with now, but you'd be less inclined to deal with now.
It'd be harder too. Like
I mean, I remember like the first place we stayed in Thailand. It was like an outdoor area that just had like a wickery type covering, and like rats ran across our like feet and stuff.
Oh Jesus, are you serious?
Yeah, and it was like 50p a night, and we just thought like, that's it.
That didn't bother you?
I think I thought it was all part of it. I also felt like I didn't want to complain. I was like, who am I to complain?
Rats and mice terrify me.
Yeah.
Like in the room with me. Like if I saw a mouse in my house, which I haven't, like I could be there 4 months later, I could be falling asleep, and then suddenly I would just decide it's in the room. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they haunt me. I don't know how did it. And actually, if you face up to them in reality, there's nothing frightening about them at all.
Yeah.
But
isn't that strange? How that objectively they're tiny and they can't hurt.
Psychologically defeat me.
Yeah.
That's what they do. They Conor McGregor me.
Yeah.
They Muhammad Ali, Conor McGregor me. They just, I don't know how to do it. Like they're psychologically so good.
Even though they're tiny. Much like Conor McGregor.
And did you, like the rats in New York?
Oh, rats in New York.
Oh,
unreal. So I remember one of the first nights I was there, I was like happy to have moved there, and I was out for a run in the East Village, and there's a big pile of trash and 3 rats as I was running. My feet like landed in between. It's like going to be in the Matrix, like trying to dodge these 3 rats. And then whenever you ran down near the water, down near the Williamsburg Bridge, in Alphabet City, you just like hordes of them at nighttime. Just hordes of them would come out, scurry up and down the street. Then occasionally you'd see like a really sick one, and you're like, ugh.
I remember when I was there when I was 21, and I'd be walking home after nights out like 5, 6 a.m. and it'd be getting bright, and there'd be rats walking beside you.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
Worst thing is when one gets on the subway car.
Oh, I haven't seen that.
Oh, yeah. So when one gets on the subway car, and then people are like, ah! And you just, for a start,
you stand on the seat.
Yeah,
everyone just stand on the seat.
Yeah, exactly. It was terrifying at the start because you have your headphones in, obviously, and you see people screaming at the end of the subway. Like, this is New York. This could be anything.
Yeah.
And you turn, and then you see this like little ferrety thing just like scurrying through the carriage, and it runs up towards you.
Oh my God!
And obviously, it just wants to get out, but you're in between stops, and you're just desperate to get to the next station. Ugh. Yeah.
Oh man, no one would kick it or crush it. It'd be bad, but you just always think, Jesus, someone might,
Well, I think you'd want it to be over quickly. You wouldn't want someone to like kick it and half kill it.
Yeah.
And then you got like a dying, and you've got to live with the morality of side of my own.
I had I once had at work a half dead mouse. I don't know what happened to the mouse, but basically I found a mouse at work, And it was like only one of its legs was working, so it was trying to leave, but it was just going around in circles. And I picked it up with like a brush pan and brought it out and left it on the street.
That was it. Just let nature take its course.
Yeah, like what you meant to do, like, but it was weird, like, because it was just going around in circles, like, I don't know what happened.
Nah,
huh?
It owed other mice money.
You got money for cheese, I got money for me. Yeah. Now they're weird, horrible little creatures, and the hardest thing would be like when they got inside buildings and stuff. Like in our building, it was like a walk-up apartment, and occasionally someone at a late night pizza box, leave it in the sort of entrance area, and you don't know how they get in there, but they get in there.
Yeah.
And then you just see this little rat scurrying around in the entrance area of your apartment.
Why is there so many in New York? Someone told me when I was in New York that what happens is that the waste removal companies basically blackmail the city.
They hold the city to ransom.
Is that what happened?
100%.
Because when I was there, I think there was 4 or 5 weeks where no rubbish was picked up.
Yeah.
And it absolutely stank.
So when I was living there at the start of the pandemic, and it was hard for public services to get out, and they wanted like PPE and stuff, understandably, to get out and do their jobs, and it just stacked up and stacked up and stacked up and stacked up, and it was like something out of an apocalyptic movie.
Yeah.
Just like you say, the stench, because it doesn't smell great at the best times, but like the stench, and then just the amount of rats just everywhere. Just really, really horrible.
So you were in New York for the start of the pandemic?
Oh, yeah.
Hollywood stuff.
Mate, it was, so you're in like a 200, probably the size of this room, like tiny apartment and you know yourself, those apartments are meant to be a crash pad in between being out at bars and restaurants and doing, stand-up clubs and whatever. And being trapped in it for 4 months was wild. And the first month, it was like something out of I Am Legend.
Yeah.
I walked into Times Square and there was just no one. And some of the ad hoardings had turned off. And it just felt really spooky. And then, there's still homeless people. There's still like people who are wandering around the city. And it had this really strange air.
Movie feel.
Yeah, no one would come meet. Because at the start, everyone was like, as it went on, people figured out where they were with it, how, what they were willing to do, not do. But at the start, I think most people were a bit like, oh, I don't want to see people. And that was hard, like not having any family there or anything.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
You couldn't even get your best friends to come meet you for a walk in the park.
Jesus, that's tough, man.
So you're just like stuck in this little room.
I was in New York for the blackout.
Oh, the Hurricane Sandy.
No, I don't know if it was the hurricane. Something happened in Niagara Falls.
Oh, okay.
It was the year after 9/11. Something happened in Niagara Falls, and there's a big power station, and 5 states in America all lost power for like, I think 12 hours.
Right.
But I was working in a bar in Times Square in New York, and the subways weren't working, and the lights were all off, and people started congregating around Times Square, just sitting on the footpaths, and it just looked like a movie.
Yeah.
It was amazing. It was amazing. And because it was the year after 9/11, a lot of people thought it was another attack.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah. And I was 21. I thought it was brilliant.
Well, I think just so many films are set in New York.
Yeah, that's why. Yeah.
When big things happen there and you're there, it does feel like
feels like it.
You're on
Yeah.
set.
It does feel like a movie.
Yeah.
And just the way everyone was reacting and everything, like everyone in New York acts like it is the center of the universe.
Yeah.
Which. I suppose it is to an extent.
Yeah.
But like nowhere is the center. But that's how everyone behaves. Like.
Yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely. And I think I don't know what it was like in the blackout, but during the first couple of months of COVID, people figured it out. It's like restaurants were shut, bars were shut. At one point, they were going to shut the bridges into Manhattan. That was pretty wild. Because you mean like I'm not going to get any, where am I going to get my food from and stuff. But after about 3 weeks, I would say, local bars and coffee shops started figuring out a system. There's like prohibition.
Yeah.
So you weren't allowed to serve booze, but coffee shops were allowed to be open. So my local coffee shop started putting whiskey in coffee. Like if you just tip them.
Yeah.
So it was like having a prohibition bar. Because of the weird times.
That's the capitalism. That's the American capitalism I like.
It is.
That's the pure form of American capitalism.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I used to walk by a guy in New York every day selling umbrellas.
Yeah.
And he used to say, $3 an umbrella. Buy them now because when it rains, they're $10. And I just think that was brilliant.
Yeah.
That's like it's kind of that's romantic capitalism.
It is, yeah, like a entrepreneurial, just a guy. Yeah, there was a guy, very, really quickly people started selling hand sanitizer.
Yeah, on the street.
The streets. And it was funny because there was like a couple of them on my block. And we're, don't get it from that guy. That guy's making it in his bathtub. I get my stuff from New Jersey. Okay? My cousin, no, man, I swear to God, my cousin has a place and a factory. I get it straight from the Purell factory. This guy, I don't know, this guy's making it in his tub at home. You don't want to fuck with that shit. All right?
I love New York. I love the way they all talk to you.
Yeah.
It's quite weird. It's quite disconcerting when you first go over. You don't realise.
Yeah.
I used to go to the bank to lodge money every day. And you go into the bank, they all start talking to you in the bank.
Yeah.
Fucking weird. What the fuck?
Yeah.
And they're like, oh yeah, he's the guy from the bar. You want to get your cocktail? Bring us in a cocktail.
But is that not a bit of that in Ireland or not really? Because obviously British people are very like,
You have a chat, but no one kind of,
Yeah,
a little bit like.
Yeah.
Ireland and England very similar. Like there'd be a bit of chatting, but not a lot of talking to people you don't know.
Because the bar you worked at, did you have that set up where people come sit at the bar?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think that's a great one for conversation between strangers.
It is, yeah.
You just like randomly sat next to somebody, and then this never happened in England or Ireland, I guess, but in New York, people just like lean over and like, hey, buddy, like, what are you drinking?
It can happen here, and it does happen here, but I think you can go into a bar and you can get talking to people in the bar you don't know, but I think it's harder to go to a bar here with the idea I'm going to go to a bar on my own and I'm going to chat to people, whereas you can go to any bar in New York on your own and chat to people. Like it's set up for that.
Yeah,
in many ways.
Like a single British guy, that was like if you rather than using apps, which got a bit boring after a while, you could just go do that. Just go sit in a bar and just talk a bit loudly at the bar.
And people will talk to you. But also you tip them, and the bar staff are, there's when you're tipping well, like, because I worked about, you do entertain the people a little bit. Yeah. You do kind of match people up and stuff like that. You'd have amazing conversations because you do end up talking to people you wouldn't
100%
normally talk to.
Did you ever have to talk to somebody who you did not, like, you got into a conversation and they were like, they said something that you didn't agree with?
Oh, man.
Controversial, and you just went with it.
I was there the year after, the first time I spent a whole summer there the year after 9/11 working there. So I had a lot of guys who were in the army.
Right.
Who were, the war, it must have been Afghanistan war, maybe both wars had started by then, but so there was you'd have guys who were just back tour duty doing a week in New York before they went back to wherever they're from. So there was a lot of a lot of war talk. I remember too, like Bush was on his war on terror. I remember a few times people started having a go at us saying, that we were Irish and we were pro-IRA and stuff like that. And I remember one night an American guy having to intervene and saying he'd been to Ireland and not everyone was pro-IRA. And I was like, oh God, like this guy was like, he was huge and he's properly having a go at me. Like,
in fact, the whole reason we have a conflict is that some of us aren't.
Yeah.
That's actually part of it.
The other thing, I had some funny stuff. Like, I used to go to this bar that an Irish bar. It was a guy from Ireland and his wife was from Israel, and they had this bar. It was a real shithole and had a pool table in it, and it was a bar that basically got busy at 4 a.m. to 8 a.m. and people would go in and they pay pool, and it would only be, there was only three types of people in the bar: policemen, firemen, and people who had just finished working in the bar shift for the night. And I used to go in. I worked in a bar during the day, but they thought I worked at night, so I used to go in. And I remember too, like, playing the policeman, and the policemen go in and put their guns on the table and playing the policeman, and I was having a friend beat these policemen in the pool, and we started slagging them off, and a guy pulled me aside and was like, you can't talk to the police like that. you need to be
wind in.
You need to be respectful here. Like, these guys are heroes. Do you know what I mean? Like,
well, especially right
after
then.
9. Yeah. These guys are heroes. Like,
that was actually, I was chatting to a friend about that, because obviously, the last couple of years, they don't have that reputation anymore in America.
Oh yeah. They're gone. The
police.
They're gone. Shite.
And New York crime at the minute is like through the roof.
Which crime is?
Crime in New York, like casual crime.
Is it?
Yeah, robbery, theft. It's like dramatically increased. So a couple of female friends over there, one of them came to visit London recently, and she was saying that, like, just the amount of harassment women are getting on the subway
in
now.
New York. Why is it gone so? What's happened?
Just fewer police.
Fewer police. Inequality an issue, or
it's the whole defund the police. They actually did defund the New York Police Department.
Yeah.
So they actually did remove bobbies from the beat equivalent, and so there's fewer people in subways, fewer people on the street corners. So it's the kind of crime that's prevented by presence, I guess.
Okay.
So the number of girls guys exposing themselves on the subway has always been a big thing. Like,
is that big here? No.
I don't feel like it is as much. I feel like all my girlfriends in New York had a story about that, about some guy like just whipping his cock out and on the 6 train.
It's so strange, isn't it?
It is. But I guess there's actually a good episode. You ever watched the TV show Master of None? The Aziz Ansari show?
No.
It's like it's a quite funny gag in it where this guy gets caught jerking off on the subway, and as he gets caught, he's like, "Well, aren't you grateful that isn't what you're into? Because this is what I'm into. This is
like a curse."
Yeah, it's like this is my sexual kink. That's what I'm into.
I was thinking this the other day. You know, you kind of daydream and trying to think of material and that, and I was thinking of, like, I don't believe in God or reincarnation or anything like that. But if there was a God and there was reincarnation, and I was a God and someone wronged me, you could really punish them by making them a paedophile in a different life. Yeah. Like, you know, that'd be, you know, be a harsh punishment. But, you know, I'm going to fucking give that guy a high sex drive and make him a paedophile. He won't fuck with me again.
A high sex drive and an inappropriate target.
Yeah, he's not going to mess with me again. But that kind of flashing, though, they say it's about power more than sexual desire.
Yeah, I mean,
have you read about that?
Well, yeah, it's they're sort of correlated, aren't they? It's like, you know, isn't it Oscar Wilde said all things are about
power.
Sex? All things are about sex except sex, which is about power. So that would make complete sense to me if it was like the domination. They're like, you have to look at this.
You have to, yeah. It's that kind of power thing.
Yeah.
But
I guess like you're the only one doing it. They can't go anywhere. Like they're trapped.
They can't look anywhere. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what they must get they get I suppose an adrenaline rush or something.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, like the girls who told me the stories, it ranges from some guys will just be like silently doing it, like
right.
Basically just like rubbing their fucking jeans, like making eye contact with you, which sounds horrific, or flipping it. Right, I know, reminds me of like family birthday parties. But then the other end, there'll be guys like, you know, full flasher style, just helicoptering it.
Men and women really live in a different world, don't they?
100%.
Like it's unbelievable how much of a different world we live in. Because I grew up in a town that was kind of, it's sort of rough enough, and like when I was a teenager, I think the teenage years for men are dangerous.
Yeah.
But I think once you get to a certain point in your mid-20s, the world becomes very safe for men.
Yeah.
So like when I was a teenager, you walk around the wrong corner, or you're in an area and you just bump into the wrong people, they're just going to kick the shit out of you.
Yeah.
Like there's no, like, they're not going to think about it. Like, it's almost like a knee-jerk reaction. Like, and I got punched a lot as a teenager. I got beaten up a few times. But then you know, like you go. I went to university in Brighton. You go to city, and then suddenly it's just like, you know, after a while, no one fucking pays any attention to you. You can walk wherever you want. You don't have to pay. You don't have to, like, I don't really have to be that aware of my surroundings and things like that. But women always do. Yeah.
Constantly, yeah. Yeah. I think having a little sister opened my eyes
to
that. Yeah. Like how much she would have to consider, like how she got home and where she was and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Because like, even for like shows, like so female comics in New York are doing shows. My friend Becca was talking about this. She's like, it's a big decision about how to get home. Yeah. So like if you book a show in New Jersey or whatever, for you and me, be like, oh, we'll just get the train home at 1 a.m. Not a big deal. Whereas Becca's like, I'm not getting a fucking train home
at that time
at 1 a.m. So that show's going to cost me $60 to.
It has happened with the comedy. I think particularly when you start comedy, you're so keen to do any gig, and you just apply, and you don't even think where it is or what it is. But I've booked gigs and then I've gone to do them, and as I'm walking to the gig, I'm like, what the fuck am I doing here?
Yeah,
like this place is scary. One of the ones I had recently, God, I was I don't know where I went. I was in Kent or somewhere, and I got the train, and then I went walking to the venue. And then I was walking like along a load of football pitches.
Yeah.
This is what the app was telling me to do. Like it was a walkway, pitch dark.
Yeah.
and there's like teenagers drinking on the football pitch on like a Friday night, and I was just like,